And then when we're ready to vote, instead of a motion to vote, let's do a motion to reconsider. How about that?
My concern with that, that's maybe the best way to do it, but just keep in mind that everything is germane at that point. Because we're not really in discussion on anything in particular, so I can talk about the weather or my vacation.
So just don't talk about the
I won't.
Yeah,
I'm just saying,
I think
there's
voice.
no...
Let's also remember we're on candid camera.
Shout out to the camera guy.
Just make good side. Or my bad side. Which side?
He talks the whole time. Every side is going to be your bad side, right?
Oh, true. Especially on that camera.
Are we currently filibustering? Because I think that's what we're Are we supposed to be discussing? No, we're waiting for
Chris, do you have a time for I just tried to call her. I can only get her voicemail. She's literally on her way. She had to get a ride to come up here, so she's en route. She's trying to get here.
Yeah, why don't we submit this to why don't we get that cool thing from you?
Oh, this Sunday. I think we're probably this one. There's 2 more.
Oh, here we go.
I got your back. I know we have discussed this through. I don't think we should be zero funding this line. Well, I'm going to start. No one's going to say anything.
I feel like I know.
Miller didn't have his hand raised, closing. I called on you.
Okay. If anyone had questions, I felt like this might be the appropriate time because no one else feels
Can everyone speak up? I don't know where everyone's like this. Great.
Do you direct this question to the representative from the MSC?
Is there a motion for non-committal? So
Could you please just briefly explain to any of us who don't attend meetings regularly how you believe, just briefly, how you believe the MSC funding board works, how efficient it is?
For those of you who don't know, we meet Tuesday nights at 7 o'clock. We had a slow fall semester, but this upcoming spring we've heard a lot of bills and allocations. Roughly we hear about 2, maybe 3 bills or allocations a meeting. I think it's going well. It was something, I don't know if you guys don't know, but I came in spring semester as student director. And it's been something that I've truly enjoyed. We have RSOs who come just ask questions to our funding board members. I think they're content with the way the process is going. What I would like to see in the future is just more communication after bills or allocations have been completed with the funding board. Maybe I can follow up with them and making sure they know who our accountant is, making sure they're accessing their money. But personally, I think it's going well. I think that Senate shouldn't think that we're taking something away from them, but just helping to build up the university and being an asset to what you guys have already done and what you're trying to do. We think we're no better than Senate, but just trying to help you guys in maybe an area that you think we're more knowledgeable in, which is cultural funding, since the MSC is put on campus to promote cultural diversity and awareness. So those are my sentiments about the funding board.
Miller.
Would you direct a question to the? Okay. You talked about cultural funding. I sit on FAO and I sat through a couple of the MSC meetings, and from your policies, correct me if I'm wrong, you don't fund cultural food, you don't fund certain decorations, stuff like that. So I guess my question is, what is the difference between the way MSC funds and the way FAO funds? What are you funding differently? How is the MSC funding board different than if this were through FAO?
That's a great question. Coming in, the spending policy, I don't think was targeted enough to what we were doing as funding cultural events. Recently, we passed our spending policy on 3rd reading, and it is our official new spending policy. We are funding cultural food, what the board deems as cultural food and cultural decorations. We've added in there as far as not funding awards and banquet type events. So coming in, I do think that was a big problem, and that was something that we had to readdress because it wasn't setting a good precedent to be able to break our spending policy every time an organization came in and said, we have this great cultural food that we want to serve, but because of your policy, we can. And we took that in mind as a funding board, as somebody who funded cultural events, and we changed our spending policy. And now we are doing that, and we are directing our time and our thoughts towards what's better for these organizations. We are funding cultural food, and we are funding cultural decorations. And actually, I can email all of you a copy of our new spending policy, which was just passed on Tuesday.
I think what was just discussed is evidence of what we've said over and over again. All we need to do is see this project through. It takes time for things to develop and grow, and I think that's evident from the past few months with this organization. I see this next year as the year to take that a step further and not just improve the spending costs, but improving the training of the individuals in the funding board so that we can see this growth, this appreciation for this new facet of student government over the next year. And if it doesn't work over the next year, then by all means we can rediscuss this topic again. And the people next year on the A&SF can consider not bringing the project to the following year. But I think for now, with the continued growth throughout these past few months, it would only be wise to continue seeing something like this continue to grow for the next coming fiscal year.
Chisholm.
I'm not going to belabor, or at least I'm going to try not to belabor what I've already said. However, I don't think what is being called into question is the abilities of the members of the funding board. I have said it a million times. They are extraordinarily competent individuals. They have learned parliamentary procedure very quickly, and the board as a whole is a very cohesive entity, and I'm very proud of what it's become. Having said that, that's not, at least for me, what's at issue here. What's at issue is it worth creating additional logistical burdens and hassles for organizations more above and beyond an already funding process that students aren't very thrilled with? We're creating more of this bureaucratic nonsense, and we're putting student orgs and individuals through that when I don't see any difference in the way things are being funded as opposed to what's being funded in FAO. My perception of the MSC has been and is an entity that serves the student body by providing extremely good quality cultural programming to UCF. To make them a funding component, continue a funding component, I see is diluting their mission. And I don't feel that we should be putting and pushing students through these hoops of trying to define what and what is not cultural unnecessarily, especially if what the board is providing is essentially a carbon copy of FAO.
Great.
When I hear the phrases logistical burden and bureaucratic nonsense, and then I hear parallels being drawn to FAO, I'm a little bit concerned because what we're doing is we're talking about zero funding a board that we're drawing parallels to a committee that we currently retain, and I hear I've never heard a discussion of dissolving the FAO committee, so that causes me a little bit concerned, because I think the same argument could be made on the flip side for one of our own committees if you want to look at it in a certain light. So I don't think that that's a fair parallel to draw to a board that's clearly working towards a different directive, and that's funding events that are hyper-specific. So I think that needs to be considered when you say that one MSC is a carbon copy of FAO, then you
weren't like kicked in the knees like Krista said, and they had no idea what was happening. We all know our debate, they've heard our debate before, like Pope said, for an hour over winter break. Everyone knows their decision, and I understand people have things to say. I do too, but we could sit here for 4 hours. Like, we do it. We sit here all day and could talk about this issue. We have our decision, we need to move on, make a decision, stop making people wait.